Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the Security Simplified podcast. This is your host, Evan Francine. Joining me is my good friend, cohort, everything else, Mr. Ryan Cloutier. Last episode, we're in the middle of this Information Security Governance Simplified series. And last episode, episode 7, we did defining information security governance, which I thought was a good episode. Episode 8, this one, we're going to talk about governance alignment. We have really 5 points that we're going to cover in this episode. Number 1, we're going to define the mission for the organization. Why is that important to information security governance? Define the mission for the information security program itself. Is executive management bought in? If so, what do they want? That's really, really important to governance. Start a charter document. Why is a charter document important? And what should it say? What should it do? Those things. And then we'll determine some communication protocols. So with that, Mr. Cloutier, do you wish to say hi?
I do. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I think the first bullet point is very relevant. What is the mission for the organization? And I mentor a lot of people, and when I talk to them, that's one thing I always try to focus them back to. What is the mission you're serving? What is the purpose for doing the thing you're doing? And I think a lot of us work in organizations, and we're not maybe clear on what that mission is, and it's so critical to your approach to governance to be, very clear on what the mission is for the organization. Maybe it's increasing sales. Maybe it's serving underserved communities. Maybe it's delivering the best product in that market space, whatever that is. But understanding that mission, I think, is paramount to setting up an effective governance program.
Yeah, 100%, man. I agree. The mission for the organization, hopefully, if it's well run and the executive management is aligned with that, and that's why that third bullet point, when we get to it, is executive management bought in. There are times when the mission for the organization isn't the motivation for the CEO. You have to address that. But in general, there's alignment there between those two. And the reason why the mission for the organization is so important, let's say the mission is to make money. Well, the business exists to make money, not to secure information. And we have to keep that in mind because we get so passionate about our jobs, as security people, that we think, we lose track of that. I think I've seen it happen so many times where I'm so frustrated that, they're not, doing this or not doing that. Well, is it getting in the way of the mission? Because if it gets in the way of the mission, why are you here? If you're not providing value to the company, to the organization in fulfilling its mission, it doesn't matter if you do information security or not. If you're not providing value, you're a waste of resources. So it's super important for you to understand that mission of the organization, and they're different from one organization to the next. We mentioned in episode 7, we use the analogy of a game, right? Governance is like rules for a game. And the game for, our organization as an information security software as a service company is a hell of a lot different than the mission for a school district. So to expect those two games to be the same, no, they're not. So you really have to understand the mission and not just read it, but actually understand it. So yeah, super important. The second question, man, define what the mission is for the information security program. How do you address that?
A lot of times we think that means only confidentiality, integrity, and availability. But it goes beyond that. It's, a well-run information security program is actually a critical component to the company's overall culture. So if you're doing it right, you are an ingrained part of company culture. You are a key component in business success. If that's not how you're operating and how you're viewed by your organization, you need to take a strong look at that. If you're just a cost center, if you're just a barrier, if you're the department of no, you need to take a tough look at that and ask yourself, how am I aligned? How is this program aligned? Because at the end of the day, the information security program should be aligned to the business objectives while mitigating risk as much as possible. right? Keeping in mind there is no risk elimination, there is no perfect secure, but are you doing enough of the right stuff to support business growth and success while also at the same time limiting risk to the information and risk to the business and its digital assets?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've run into this, and as a security leader, you run into this in one of two situations: either inheriting a security program or you're building one. And when you inherit a security program that's got misalignment, or no alignment at all, maybe the previous leader of the security program didn't define a mission for the security program. I'm a big proponent of defining missions for security programs because it defines purpose. It defines purpose for my team. I document the mission so that I can share it with the executives, because the other executives, they have a lot of things on their mind, man. If you look at like a CEO, there's so many risks that they need to account for. It's not just information. We're just another risk. Again, we get so passionate about our jobs that we think that information security is the only risk they should be, focused on. No, you've got reputational risk, financial risk, regulatory risk, on and on and on. This is just another risk. So I document it so they don't forget it, so that they can reference it, on a regular basis. So when there's misalignment or, no alignment at all, it's, a lot of consultation with the business, right? With executive management on where have we missed before? What have we done really well before, so that I can define that mission statement and make sure it's in alignment. Because I've been asked many times by money motivated CEOs, tell me how this is going to make us more money. Right. And that's a tough question if you haven't thought this through. And the first time admittedly, I didn't have an answer for it. And I'll never forget that time. It was in a board meeting. And I was like, I don't think it's going to make you more money. And that was a crappy answer, because how am I ever going to get his buy-in on my program if I'm not serving the mission? So that was a really good takeaway. So what I did after that, after feeling like I was about, this tall, little teeny person, is I went back and really thought this through, right? And so here's one answer to that. How does it make you, will it make you more money? Absolutely it will. How will it make you more money? It'll make us more efficient. And well, tell me how it's going to make us more efficient. Well, simplicity, if complexity is the worst enemy of security, and simplicity then might be our best friend, I can look at business processes that are maybe 30 steps long and make them into 3 steps and make it more secure, and at the same time help us make more money. So looking for those efficiencies is one way I can do it. Another way I can do it is I can make it a market differentiator. People are concerned about information security. If we do it really well, why don't we tout that a little bit, right? Not too much. We don't want to draw too much attention to ourselves, but that isn't what attackers are motivated by today anyway. They're motivated by money. So, we used to be worried that if I say my security is so good, well, then I'm going to make myself a target. No, not really, not anymore. So yeah, alignment is super important, because I need to be able to defend why I'm here. Why am I here? You're paying me God knows how much money. You've given me a budget, you've given me a team, and I can't justify my existence with you. That's a bad spot to be.
Well, and I think alignment's important to executive buy-in, right? If the executive leadership doesn't feel that you're in alignment with the business, you're just a cost center, you're just a problem child waiting to happen, you're never going to be effective at this, right? You have to be aligned to the business. And the more aligned to the business you are, the higher the likelihood that your executive leadership is going to be bought into the things that you're selling. They're going to want to support these initiatives. They're going to want to do that multi-factor implementation because they see the direct value back to the business.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's, if you don't have their buy-in, to the point of, okay, what do they want? You need to figure out what drives the business, but also what drives the human that drives the business. And the better you understand those two intersections, the more effective a security program that you can develop, because it's going to be in line with these things. It's going to be, you're going to be able to tie back those key points that they care about, that they see value in, to the program that you're proposing. And if you don't, if you're just talking the tech talk, you're just coming in with your firewalls and vulnerabilities and patches and et cetera, well, while the business might understand all those terms as being relevant and important and et cetera, they're never going to connect with you at that peer level, at that you add as much value to this business as I do level. And that is what's important to making your program truly work. Because without their support, their buy-in, I mean, you can have a budget all day from Sunday, but you're not going to move the needle.
Yeah. You know, getting buy-in, I have, over the years, right, you learn things, some wisdom things. So take a lot of this stuff as, I like to tell people I've already paid the dumb tax for you on this. I don't know why you want to pay it yourself. I've lost years of my life trying to fight these battles, and that was the problem, right? I was fighting battles. I wasn't with the company. And so executive management buy-in, one of the things that's a rule for me, or became a rule, was I'm not taking the job unless I get to sit down and have a conversation with the CEO. Or if I do take the job, I need to have a conversation with the CEO 15 to 30 minutes in the first week, because it's going to tell me a lot. So what usually happens is if I'm reporting to the CIO, which I hate, I won't take that job anymore now either, but back then, if the CIO is like, oh, no, you can't. Well, that's a big red flag. Because what that means is the CIO is probably not going to give me access to the CEO, who's ultimately the one responsible for the security program, not me. And that's a big red flag. So why are you being a roadblock here? Why can't I get this conversation going? That's a red flag. If the CEO won't give me the time, that's also a red flag. I need their time. I don't need all of your time. I need 15 to 30 minutes. And the reason why I need that is I need to know you. I need to understand what motivates you. If say the mission is this, but the CEO is really motivated by money, well, then that's a different message. And I have to account for that. Some CEOs are really motivated by ego. Well, how can I make you look like a rock star, right? I got to take that into account as I build the security program, or as I communicate with that person in the future and try to get budget, right? This is going to make us look awesome, man. You're going to be able to set the standard. You can go with your other CEOs in your peer groups and tout this thing that you've done. It's revolutionary. You're a hell of a leader, right? That works well for an ego-driven person. So, getting that executive buy-in, it does take conversation. It does take getting out of your comfort zone and having conversations with business leaders that maybe you're not used to having these conversations, but they're critical because they become your allies and you're their ally. So you're not fighting the battle, you're fighting with them.
Well, and one of the things that helps facilitate those conversations is a charter document. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? Where are you going? What's your plan? How do you measure success? What are the goals? The better prepared you are to communicate that, the more likely you are to get the outcome you're after, right? So having a charter document, even if it's just loose, really helps you maintain that focus, stay on track, communicate with leadership, articulate those expectations cleanly and clearly. You're saying, look, the information security program is going to function this way. These are our goals. These are our objectives. These are our needs and our resource demands. All of that can go into a charter document.
Yeah.
Generally you're gonna lay out, the why do you exist? What's your purpose? How do you help? These things are all in there. But you can also, take it to that next level and kind of outline, some of the resource, needs, and then that then spawns other documents. But having that charter is critical to sitting down with business leadership, because, there's a business charter, and if you've never seen it, it might be helpful to look at it. But every business should have a business charter that describes how the business is going to win. Why should it exist? How does it add value? How is it profitable? So borrow from that. And the more aligned your charter is to the business charter, the more hand in glove your relationship feels to leadership.
Yeah, and I've seen people struggle with, building these charter documents because they don't know what's supposed to go in them, or they try to get it perfect out of the gate. Your documents are never going to be perfect, so stop even trying that. If you only had one thing in your charter document, make it the purpose, make it the mission statement. Everything else you can fill in as you go, but that's the most critical piece of a charter document for your information security program. Another thing you can do is you can use templates. We mentioned before that governance can't be templated, but documents can be templated. So if you're going to take a template, you need to change it to fit you, right? So we have a free information security charter document on securitystudio.com, under our resources that you can go and use to get an idea of what's supposed to be in there. But number one, your purpose, your mission. People can rally behind that. So last we have is communication protocols, man. Let's hit that really quick, and then we'll wrap this up before we get into episode 9, which is really cool. Roles and responsibilities. I love that.
So, communication protocols, very important topic here. How, when, and what you communicate. And not just what, but what method. There are times that a text is appropriate. There are times that a text is inappropriate. So understanding how you're going to communicate, what you're going to communicate, when and on what method are really critical to a successful security program. There are a lot of communications that need to occur, some of them private, some of them public, some of them involving one party, some of them involving many parties. So the better that you establish these protocols, and just to tie this back real quick to incident response, because this also fits incident response, having established communication protocols that are both on and off channel. Off channel being if you thought you were breached, you might use text instead of email, or you might make a phone call or some other method that's less likely to be intercepted by the bad guys. Figuring that stuff out in advance, figuring out how often you're going to communicate. What leadership wants an update. What's in that update? How does that update come? What form? Is it a newsletter? Is it a presentation? The better you understand the protocols by which you communicate and the frequencies, the easier time you will have in working with leadership and giving them those necessary updates.
Yeah, and you don't have to be, you don't have to be super formal on this, at least getting out of the gate, right? When we're, talking about, alignment, the best advice I ever got on communication protocols is always consider your audience. I talk to executives a hell of a lot different. I talk in board meetings a hell of a lot different than I do with my peers, or than I do with my team, or than I do with my friends or my wife. And so it's establishing those, remembering who you're talking to, right? Do they even understand what the hell you're saying? Really important. What's appropriate? What's not appropriate? I would joke about, all kinds of things with my friends, but I would never do that in a board meeting. Always keep that in mind. Who's listening? Who are you talking to? Speak their language. And keep the etiquette right. So, next episode 9, roles and responsibilities. I'm excited about that one. We'll talk about that one next week. And then we'll keep rolling into this. I love governance. I think it's so critical to the success of your security program and your efforts. If you don't take the time to do this right, you end up spinning your wheels, a hell of a lot more stress in your life than you should. So don't overlook any of these things. Hopefully you've gotten some good tidbits as we've gotten through the first 2 episodes of this series. If you haven't, if you're looking for more, if we're not clear, reach out to us, right? You know how to get a hold of us. We both work at Security Studio. We're around. Give us, ask us questions.
And I'll close with this. Good governance should be a critical component of your culture. And the more tightly coupled your governance and your culture are, the less likely you are to have negative impacts from a cyber event. We'll catch you guys next week.
All right. Take care.